way meanwhile democracy. The best expression of democracy is in how we conduct ourselves, how we conduct our affairs. I'll give you an example. Democracy, in a democracy, there is freedom of expression. As I'm talking to you right now, there's a young man called Matomola. Matomola is in prison today and has been there for 10, 11, 12 days now. Not because he committed any crime, not because he did anything that was against the law. This young man only protested to add his voice to an issue at the University of Zambia. He protested an idea or a decision by the Vice Chancellor, which was meant to disadvantage the children of the poor people. Matomola decided, I'm going to add my voice, because this is not a decision in the best interest of our people, best interest of the poor people for that matter. He protested, and as we are talking, he's in prison. That doesn't happen in a democracy. It never happens in a democracy. What defines democracy is the freedom of expression, which we can sufficiently say is non-existent. Secondly, in a democracy, democracy is a contest of ideas. In a democracy, people debate, people fight with ideas. In Zambia, we don't argue with ideas. We fight with machetes. We fight with pangas. That's not a democracy. That's war there. What I'm telling you now is that this is not a democracy. Democracy is only the part. It doesn't matter what we say about democracy. We only believe the part of democracy that we both put in action. It doesn't matter what we say. Even what we are calling elections. If you pay attention to what we talk about during the elections or towards the elections and after elections, you realize that this is not a contest of ideas. This is just an ethnicity census. So after the elections, after the voter registration is done, we'll know how many people are in Southern Province, how many people registered in the Northern Province, and that's what this election turns out to be. So that's not a democracy. Democracy is not based or defined by those things. So what I'm telling you now is we cannot discuss the state of democracy in Zambia before we are convinced that we have a democracy in this country. We can discuss the state of a democracy after we confirm that we do have a democracy. And I can tell you that we cannot discuss the state of democracy in Zambia because we do not even have a democracy in Zambia.
Well, a lot of people would argue with you because the mere fact that you are speaking the way you're speaking on this platform entails that your freedoms of expression, are guaranteed, and you are speaking. There's no one that is, pressing you, to speak. I don't think the police officers waiting for you outside for you to be locked. Don't you think you're doing a disservice when you say there's no democracy in our country?
So democracy is not a perception. It's not about where you are. If you do not have the freedom to express yourself, it doesn't mean that democracy exists in my space. I just gave an example of Matomola. Matomola is in prison today because he expressed himself. I cannot impose my assumed safety or freedom to express myself now on him. If you asked him why he's in prison, he'll tell you because he expressed himself. I've been arrested a number of times because I expressed myself. That's not how you define democracy. We cannot say we're a democratic country when other people, when it's for you to enjoy these democratic privileges, you have to belong to certain groups of people, or you have to be Pilato, or you have to be another one. The idea is that if there is democracy in the country, it means that everyone in the country must experience this democracy. It's not a democracy for a small group of people. It is a democracy for everyone. So if you can actually count that I can express myself without getting in trouble, I'll give you an example. Why is Matomola in prison? If Matomola is in prison today because he expressed himself on a national matter, then there is no democracy. There is no democracy for Matomola. So if there is no democracy for Matomola, there is no democracy for me.
There's a charge, Pilato, to whatever Matomola did.
There is always a charge.
If there's going to be democracy, I think it should be done within an agreed, set of rules that we've agreed for ourselves. If Zambia is a democracy, there's certain patterns that we need to follow as we enjoy our democracy, or else we'll be stepping on.
There is always a charge, Andrew. There is always a charge. And the goodness with these charges is that they are very stupid for everybody to see. So you look at these charges, you go like, there is always a charge. How many days did it take for him to go to the courts? Did you even know that Matomola was in prison? When did you know?
Where would you say, or what would you say, how are we lost as a country? Perhaps we didn't even have democracy at all, isn't it? From what you say.
So you only understand that you are in chains when you try to move. To ask if whether we are democracy and whether we have democracy now, it's difficult for me to tell you that we are democracy. But I can remind you that there was a time that we had President Michael Sata in opposition and obviously enjoyed much of the freedom that many opposition leaders cannot enjoy now. What I'm trying to tell you is that democratization is a process. It doesn't happen. It's not an event that should happen on the 30th, we're going to be a democratized country. No, it's a process that started for this country. We started a democratization process. And I just give you an example of Mr. Sata, who was so critical of the government of that particular time. And he did it so freely. So because democratization is a process, we started a process that if we stop now and look where we're coming from, you and I know that we actually stopped moving and we actually regressing, we're going backwards. So he probably started the process to getting into a proper defined democracy. But where we are not.
Yeah, and perhaps maybe you can help us understand from your own perspective, at what point did we begin to, go backwards as opposed to it being a continuous process and continuing the trajectory of democracy?
I think we got it lost when we allowed thugs to define what politics is. So you hear thugs telling you, I'm a politics, I am a politics. So the definition of politics moved from what you were taught in school, what politics are. We moved to what thugs, thieves, criminals defined as politics. So you and I can come here and lie to you. When you catch a lie, when you tell me this is a lie, I'll tell you these are politics. So we lost it there. We lost it when the people of Zambia became so comfortable with mediocrity that they couldn't even ask a question, even when it was at their expense. We lost it. We lost it when Zambians decided we could only think about a political party and first, and then secondly, the country. If you drive around the country, Zambia, you would see more of the political party flags than of the country. How does a party take precedence over the country? How does that work? We want to be affiliated to a political party and forget about the country. What I'm saying to you now is the moment we started thinking a political party was better, the moment we redefined our politics, we lost democracy. We lost in the journey towards a democratic country. And to get back to that, Zambians will have to get to a point where they ask serious and right questions. We'll have to get back to the point where we ask ourselves, do I love this country that hosts this political party? Do I love this country more than I would love a political party? If politicians decide, in whose interest deciding, the moment we get to ask those questions, then we'll subscribe to ideals and ideas of democracy. The moment we subscribe to these ideas of democracy, then all of us can suspect that at one point in our time, we'll start pursuing these principles of democracy. And the process will have started. Without that, if we continue dancing and praising a political party or an individual and forget that we have a country, if we continue to think and look at this country through political brands, If you and I argue, if the first thing that you want to see is my surname so that you know which region I'm coming from and which political party I could be supporting, the country, Zambia, will suffer. Democracy will stand and may even die in the process.
And for the sake of just getting to understand all these issues, Pilato, who has created an atmosphere where even before I could have a conversation with you, I need to, to check your last name for me to know the region you come from? Who is, what is precipitating this situation?
So first of all, it's very basic, Andrew. It's very basic, and it starts with what we celebrate. If you see the people that are being given the platforms by the media, if you see the people that are given awards, ministerial positions that are being lifted, being elevated by the